proceed here when we finish with David Cameron. Welcome, David. I know that you're here to talk about the Long Point Causeway Bridge, correct?
Correct.
Good to see you. You have 10
always.
minutes. I'll let you know at 9. You're running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Eminency, and councillors and staff. I do respect the agenda that you have tonight. I will be brief and succinct. It's necessary to introduce myself for some people who may not know me. I am retired. I work for a number of volunteer organizations within the county to give back to my community, which is Norfolk. It's important to say that tonight I'm specifically representing the Long Point Ratepayers Association. Long Point is about almost 1,000 properties, about a dozen businesses on Long Point. I'm joined here by a number of the executive of the Long Point Ratepayers Association and a number of ratepayers. I can tell you that the ratepayers are in absolute euphoric support of the notion that the Causeway Bridge should be properly replaced as soon as possible. First, we do understand that this is a terrible surprise and is a very serious failure, particularly that is the only access to the community of Long Point. With that in mind, I would like to thank Council for the unanimous approval for the temporary repair of the bridge. I would also like to thank the County Manager and very capable staff for getting that done and being very creative and also overcoming all the challenges that did present themselves to get that done. Clearly, the ultimate replacement of the bridge is in our long-term capital plan, so the decision has already been made to do that. The only question now is, do we do it 6 years from now, or do we do it as soon as possible? We understand and respect it's not easy to move a budget item of that significance forward 5 to 6 years. But it's our sense, and it's probably yours as well, that there's just simply no option. We're not going to speak about the financing. You have all the normal levers of long-term depreciation, your possible financing that you have available. But I do have two thoughts for you from the ratepayers on how maybe we can save some cost. The first is simply the longer we wait, the more expensive that bridge will be to replace. With 8,000 to 10,000 vehicles crossing that bridge in the summertime, very large trailers and campers, the deterioration of the temporary bridge will be extensive, and there could well be further costs to maintain that temporary repair. The expensive environmental assessment, which is just coming to a completion, my understanding is they're only valid for 5 years. So if we don't get the bridge replaced in 5 years, we'll go through another cost of another expensive environmental assessment. There's a national interest in this area with the Canada Wildlife Service has a regional office on the other side of the bridge. There are 2 provincial parks on the other side of the bridge, and there's a provincial significant wetlands all around the bridge. With this in mind, we would suggest that Council may want to direct staff to look for provincial or federal funding to help subsidize the cost of the replacement of the bridge. We thank Council once again. We hope you'll make the same decision tonight to move this forward the way you would make the decision if it was any community in Norfolk County with the only access at serious risk and currently on life support. And we do respect engineering. We know they're very capable and creative, and they may have further ideas on how to get this done, perhaps at a lower cost. So in that, I know this is the last official deputation since before the summer break, so I will close early and wish you all a safe and healthy summer break. We look forward to a positive response.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Cameron, and your kind words. I'll ask if there's any questions for Mr. Cameron. You may be seated. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Height and seconded by Councillor Brunton that the deputation of David Cameron regarding Councillor Height's motion regarding the Long Point Causeway Bridge and the Long Point Causeway be received as information. Those in favor? It's carried. Council will go to page 75, a follow-up to Mr. Cameron's deputation. There is a proposed motion there by Councillor Height. I'll get to that in a moment. And of course, you have read it, so I'm not going to read the entire thing at this time. Councillor Height has moved this resolution on page 75. I will need a seconder to this motion before we can discuss it. Councillor Geisens has seconded it. If, Councillor Height, if you don't mind, I would like to read, not the therefores, I've read it, I'm sure Council has. With your permission, I'll read the resolution at the end, and then we'll open it for debate. You okay with that? If you wish me to read it, please say so. I don't mind reading. So the resolution after the whereases are, therefore be it resolved that it is in the county's best interest to advance the entire bridge repair during the 2018-2019 construction year to correspond with the causeway reconstruction project as per the Class EA to receive favorable pricing during the tender process, and that through advancing this motion and related work, it is hoped that travelers using the bridge will feel safe again. Discussion. Councillor Height, please.
Just quickly on this one, Mr. Mayor, it's been brought to my attention that the word bridge repair doesn't work right here, because somebody could go out there and nail some 2x4s on it, much like what's been done now, and we call it a day. That's not acceptable. To me, I would prefer that that word be changed to replacement.
Replacement. You okay with that? Good point. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Height's motion is a good one, in that inevitably it would be more cost-effective if we were able to do both projects as part of the same tender. I'm sure it would end up being more cost-effective. I guess my only question to him is the use of the term 2018-2019 construction year. I'd like to have clarification. Does that mean, assuming we were able to get a tender prepared and out and in the budget, that it would be during the calendar year 2019 that this would all be done? Or when is the road scheduled to be done in our 10-year capital plan? And presumably the motion would see the bridge done during the same year that the road was done. But I need to have clarification what the 2018-2019 construction year phrase means.
If I can answer that, and I certainly went to the budget when I saw this resolution for 10-year capital. Originally, the construction of the Causeway Road was scheduled to be done here in 2018. And it was, in my conversations with Lee Robinson, it was to be done up to, but not including the bridge or so many meters on both sides. Then the bridge was scheduled in 2024 to be replaced, and that was approved by council before we had the failing of the bridge back earlier this spring. The budget estimate for the road work is $3.5 million. The bridge replacement is now been tagged at $6.5 million for a total of $10 million. The intent, when I talked to Lee Robinson and Gary, I'm going to give you a chance to further on mine while I have it. The intent was, when the EA was finished, which it has not been completed, was to then put out the RFP, the tender, what you will, and hopefully Lee had told me some of the preliminary work could have been started this fall on the road work. But we're not there at the moment. Gary, I really appreciate your comments as well, and correct anything if I'm out of line with what I said, please.
I think you're entirely in line.
I'm
So we
entirely
are
out of line, thank
in
you.
line.
I think I'll have a recess now, go home.
So you're right, and there were some delays in finishing the Class EA, not on the fault of the consultant. They were doing archaeological work near the bridge, and that's continued almost right up until today. We have the draft Class EA. It's not, the work on the causeway itself is not as complicated as doing an urban street in Simcoe or Delhi. So the actual construction's going to go a lot quicker, but since we are so delayed in getting the engineering started, Lee's right, we're not sure when or what we might be able to complete this year, but the intent, once that Class EA is advertised, we would then advertise for the consultant. The road, the causeway work, the bridge would be designed at the same time, and again, as you were saying earlier, that's correct, that the causeway would be done, we would build up to a certain distance of the bridge, and then wait for 5 years, and then tender the bridge part. But they would actually be designed together, so we know in the end, everything would work as one item.
Mr. Houghton, a question I have for you, and it does relate to the motion. Well, first of all, Councilor Oliver, I think because there was road work for 2018 and moving the bridge up, that's why 2018-19 is there. Some of the work could start, being optimistic. Mr. Houghton, in your opinion, is it feasible, realistic, to see the causeway and the bridge replacement all engineered, designed, tendered, and completed by the end of 2019? Both projects combined.
I would see the causeway being completed. The bridge may be a bit more complicated. We have some issues in terms of traffic diversion because we can't, as was talked about, it is the only access to the causeway.
Yes.
So there's if we do that as a whole structure, we can't do a lane at a time, that will make it very complicated. And I'd like to defer to the consultant we haven't hired yet. It will be challenging. I don't think it's impossible, but I would like to wait another month or two until we have a consultant.
I appreciate your input and your comments, Gary. Other comments, questions? I don't think that changes the intent of the motion to move ahead. Councilor Columbus, please, and then Black.
A question, will the causeway, the road itself, be widened significantly to accommodate a bike lane that has been talked about for years?
Sure, it will be, there will be, we prefer to call them paved shoulders as opposed to bike lanes. We're not putting buffered bike lanes that you might have seen in other municipalities, but there will be a shoulder width, paved shoulder, and then there will actually be a granular shoulder beyond that. So overall, from where we are now, it'll be, I don't recall exactly, 4.5 to 5 meters beyond the pavement's edge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Black, please.
Well, certainly, I support both the causeway repairs and the bridge, absolutely. But I am wondering, because of the total amount, it's a huge amount, and what would be our normal budget amount? This looks like it would probably take away from other areas of the municipality. So I guess I'm more concerned with doing the whole project and having it cost us $10 million in 1 year. So what you're saying is that there's no way you'd be able to do both the road and the bridge in 1 year. Like, you can do the engineering, I get that, but actual construction, so we wouldn't have this 10 million expenditure in 1 year, would we?
Through the chair, that's more up to finance as to whether we can afford something.
Well, you're not going to do the
But
bridge and the causeway in the same year.
whether that's, again, I'm not sure if that'd be technically possible, whether it's financially possible. I think that's, if it's been budgeted and approved in the capital budget, then.
Is it technically possible to do both the causeway and the bridge in the same year?
Technically? Or, sorry, did you say technically or
Technically.
financially? Again, I'm not sure because of some of the complexities with the bridge itself. I'm not sure if that could all be done at the same time. It would, right now, we're looking at sort of an interim thing where the causeway reconstruction would end before the bridge, and at some point in the future, we'd do the rest of it, 2024, but.
So how long would the temporary bridge last?
That's a challenging question for me to answer. I know that it's a sort of structure that can be rehabilitated over the years. It's basically a steel frame.
Okay, would it last 3 years?
My understanding is it would, it would still need some maintenance along the way.
Okay, so it's not like we have to replace that one immediately,
The,
temporary bridge.
there are components of it, like wear components that could be replaced. The wood, it's a steel frame, which I don't think would,
Okay, the temporary bridge will last for a few years, correct?
I understand, yes.
Okay, you're having trouble answering that?
I'm not the engineer evaluating it.
Okay, have you read the engineer report? What did it say?
My understanding is, yes, they were looking at a few years, that's what you're saying.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I was looking for, a few years. Thank you very much. Could I go to the treasurer and ask about the money?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, and my concern is the $10 million all in 1 year. Because $10 million for our bridges, we have like 238 bridges, you know, and there's quite a number of them in the works already. I mean, if you costed all of them out at $2 million a pop, you're talking about $500 million worth of infrastructure. So this is one, and it is important. So I'm just concerned about spending $10 million in 1 year. So would this be budgeted over 2 years? The causeway, 1 year, and the bridge, another?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Black, the financing or the funding for these projects, the road construction portion would be funded from the roads reserve. So we all know the state of that reserve. However, from a cash flow perspective, we would have enough funds to pay for that while the reserve is being replenished through contributions through future levies. The bridge component would be funded through debt or debentures. And once that project is complete, then we would issue debentures related to that bridge. As far as cash flow until the project is complete, we monitor that we would monitor that closely. And if we'd have to get an interim construction loan or something similar in order to bridge that gap, then we would have to do that.
So I'm just wondering, would this, because of the amount, would it be taking away from other road construction, bridge construction projects in Norfolk County? Would we have to be deferring them?
Through the mayor to Councillor Black, from a financing perspective, for that amount of money, I don't believe so. However, if it were to climb significantly, then we would have it all depends on our cash flow situation. And again, if we have to get a construction loan in order to bridge that financing, then we could do that. And that's, construction loans vary between 2.5%, 3%.
Okay. You know, somebody asked me today to ask this, and I'm sure everybody's going to laugh at it, but in terms of raising money, other places have toll roads and toll bridges. Have we ever considered that sort of thing? Maybe to the treasurer or to Gary?
Well, I'm not sure that's fair to ask staff, because I think if you wanted to start tolling some of the bridges or some of the roads in Norfolk, that would not be a staff decision, that would be a council's decision. I mean, obviously, we've never done that in my time here in Norfolk. Anybody on staff want to answer
Just
that?
asking if they've considered
Mr.
it.
Cribbs, go ahead.
I can't speak for whether or not historically this corporation's ever considered that in the years prior to my employment here. I can tell you from a public policy perspective, tolls are typically only placed on roads, bridges, ferries, the like, where there are transportation alternatives. This is the only way in and out of the Long Point community. Accordingly, were a toll to be placed on it, the only way one could access it through a public highway system is by paying a toll. So that runs contrary to the general philosophy of, the 407, for instance. You have other options. You don't have to elect to pay the toll because you can take other roads. Therefore, it's a reasonable one to put a toll on.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. It wasn't really my question. It was someone living in Long Point that asked me about putting a toll on the bridge. Thank you.
I have a couple more speakers here. I think the motion, if I may, is simply, we know we're moving ahead with the road reconstruction. We're just waiting to finish the EA and get on with the road construction that's scheduled for this year, 2018. The bridge is scheduled for 2024. This resolution is simply asking this council to move forward on replacing the bridge. Don't wait 6 years. I mean, if we got a 3-year expectancy on a bridge, I'm not getting into the debate. I'm just saying, I think it's a case of whether this council wants to direct staff to start moving the bridge up as soon as possible, 2019. Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Questions to engineering.
Yeah.
It was said that in 2018 there was an engineering inspection report done for this bridge. Will that ever be released publicly?
We are concluding that right now. At the end of next week, I'm expecting the full OSIM report, which covers the bridge inspections, and my understanding is we would eventually be posting that on the county website.
And that's for 2018? Because the 2016 ones have been posted.
Correct.
Okay, and so do we have an audit on work performed after we receive these OSIM inspections? That the work is actually performed?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay, the engineer says this bridge requires work. Somewhere along the line, staff looks and says it requires work, gets put on a job duty list and gets done. Do we not have such a system?
We regularly review that OSIM report with the engineer, and we try to put in what's appropriate in each year's capital budget and over the 10-year capital plan.
I read the 2016 report for this bridge. It calls for immediate repairs in the 1 year. Those repairs are still on the list, not done.
Correct.
Like the guardrails, they didn't just rot last year. And it was called for in 2016, so I have to assume that that work was not done, period. So what I'm asking for is a mechanism in place to make sure that this work gets done before things do fall apart. Do we not have such a thing?
Not a specific audit, if that's what you're referring to.
Okay. Job duty lists? Like, does the OSIM report just sit on a shelf?
No, we actually meet with the firm that does the OSIM reports on a monthly basis and move forward what we can through the budget process.
Like, I'm struggling with this one because I read the 2016 report, and a lot of the stuff that it called for back then is still defective with the bridge today, so there hasn't been any work on it.
Councillor Height, I'm not sure if your question is directly at what this resolution is about, moving the bridge from 2024 forward to possibly 2019.
Mayor Luke, I've had several calls from constituents, and they're worried that this isn't just the only bridge in Norfolk County that's being neglected. I'm just looking for a solution so that I can go back to them
Okay,
and tell them we are maintaining those assets.
And those are great phone calls to get, and I applaud you for taking them and wanting some action, but I'm looking for a discussion on a motion as to whether you're going to move the bridge, the new bridge from 2024 forward, because that's all the resolution deals with. So I think it's related, but I don't think your questioning is related to this recommendation specifically.
Okay, I'll leave it at that then.
I think that's another good question for another moment, for another motion or another discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're dealing with whether this council wants to decide to move that bridge forward, the
Right.
replacement to 2019.
Mhm.
So continue, please. I'm just
Okay,
trying
okay,
to
I'll
move
just-
this resolution along.
I'll just make it quick, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
We know the causeway rebuild's $3.5 million. If we wait till 2024, the bridge coming in at $6.5 million, it actually equals 11, not 10. But, no, that is 10. Sorry. It'll be over budget, don't worry, Jim. You know, it will be 11 million if we wait till 2024. Okay? That, it costs more money down the road. This bridge was initially in the 2016 report costed at $2 million. Now it's 6.5. I don't know if that number is correct or not. I certainly hope it's not. But the 3.5 million for the causeway, it's already in this year's budget.
That's correct.
And it will be debentured. So it will be spread out over 2 years because we're probably not going to get there in 2018. It's going to take a while to engineer it. hopefully come up with a solution where we don't have to build $2-3 million bridges for this problem. We need to finish this bridge, built in 1959. The residents of Long Point pay $4 million a year in taxes each year. What they get so far? Since I've been here, $2 million. That's what they got for Erie Boulevard. The least we can do as this council is fix a bridge, and it's the only way in and out. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Height, I appreciate your comments. They're right on for the motion. I appreciate your patience with me. Councillor Brunton, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I support this, of course, and some of my questions were answered by James. It'll be a big debenture, but I hope it doesn't cost what we're thinking it's going to cost. But I heard Gary, our engineer, say that to me, it's not practical to do everything at once. I think it'd be a great inconvenience to the people down there. Personally, I think he said that the causeway gets built and the bridge gets built, and that'll be enough of a cumbersome to the people in Long Point. So if we can get it up, get it moving, and I support getting it moved ahead as soon as possible, but I think it's wise to do one before the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brunton. Councillor Oliver, please.
Very much, Mr. Mayor. Mine will be quick as well, and I'm glad you got my colleague back on track, because I do support his motion on this. I just want to remind council that several years ago, with the great big reconstruction of the main drag in Port Dover, we phased that over 3 years. I think it was let as an overall contract, but done in phases and paid in phased years. Yes. So I totally agree with the other comments. I think best case scenario, we're looking at perhaps 2018, 2019 for the road and 2020 for the bridge, and even that would be a huge improvement over 2014. I was encouraged by Mr. Houghton's comment that it will be designed as a package. At least I think that's what he said. And that then would lend itself to be tendered as a package, even as two separate phases over 2 years. So it's a good motion, makes sense, it will save money. I'll bet you $100 it won't cost $6.5 million to replace that bridge if you do it that way.
I'm not taking your bet. Any other, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call the question, or I think you know the intent of it. I don't have to read it. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of the resolution. That is carried, and I want to say that I too support it. Everything seemed to be real good 2018, 2024, but when that decking gave way there a few months back, that changed the whole situation, changed the whole landscape, in my opinion. It's time to do the whole causeway, roadway, bridge as soon as we can get on with this. It's the only way in and out, and it has to be safe, and it has to be done anyhow. We are a bit behind here from our 5 o'clock public meetings. I apologize to those that have applications before us. I am prepared, even though my legs are crossed, I am prepared to do those 2 public meeting applications right now. If you will allow that, please feel free to, as long as you all don't leave at once, use the facilities, and then we would have our break. Can I have a show of hands to support that? I am going to do that, and as I say, if you have to slip out for a second, that's fine. You okay with that? You're fine? Thank you. So, having said that, I would like you, Council, to turn to page 133, please. And again, for those that are here for the public meeting, my sincere apology. This is the latest we've ever started a public meeting. We got caught up in a number of important events, but these are important too. I now officially open the public meetings held under the Planning Act and the Municipal Act. I advise those in attendance that the Ontario Municipal Board or the local planning tribunal has the power under the Planning Act to dismiss an appeal to either a zoning bylaw and or an official plan amendment if the appellant does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or does not make written submission to Norfolk Council before the zoning bylaw is passed and or before the official plan amendment is adopted. Our application in front of us this evening. An application has been received to amend the Norfolk County Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw to permit wedding ceremonies and to permit a cafe with a maximum of 30 seats on the subject lands. Whistling Gardens Limited and Agent Ruth Victor and Associates has put forth the application affecting the lands described as 698 Concession 3, and I believe that's still in Townsend. Yeah. Our planner, Karen? No. Kayla. I'll slow down. Kayla DeLay, nice to see you. You ready to go?
Thank you. Yes,
Thank
I am.
you, Kayla.
This is an official plan and zoning amendment application for Whistling Gardens located on Concession 3 Townsend. Whistling Gardens is a well-known horticultural facility in Norfolk County. The botanical gardens are a tourist destination and include wholesale and retail sales of plants and seeds. The property owners have applied to permit wedding ceremonies and a cafe with a maximum of 30 seats as a secondary use to the main farm operation. The subject lands are designated and zoned agricultural. Therefore, in reviewing the application, the OMAFR guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario's prime ag areas were used to provide guidance. Given the nature of the proposed uses of a small cafe and wedding ceremonies, in this instance, planning staff consider the proposal to be consistent with the limited in area requirement for an on-farm diversified use. Although the proposal is slightly over the suggested 2% noted in the guidelines, the majority of this calculation comes from the existing parking area. Planning staff are satisfied that the proposal does not significantly compromise the agricultural function of the property. The proposed on-farm diversified use of a cafe and wedding ceremonies are consistent with the policies of the PPS as they are located on a farm, secondary to the principal agricultural use, limited in area, and are considered an agricultural tourism use. Furthermore, the proposed uses are compatible with the surrounding agricultural operations and help preserve a thriving agricultural industry and rural economy. The proposed uses conform to the goals and the objectives of the Norfolk County Official Plan and meet the intent as they are limited in size and considered secondary. The agricultural character and function of the surrounding community will be maintained, and Whistling Gardens will continue to strengthen the economic tourism base by promoting the local ag community as a destination for tourists. Planning staff consider the proposed uses to represent good planning and recommend that the application be approved.
Thank you very much. Kayla, is there any questions from council members to our planner, Kayla DeLay? I note that the applicants are here, the Heimbeckers are here from Whistling Gardens, and I assume your agent, Ruth Victor. Welcome. I would like to invite anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application to come forward to the podium, and as always, we will allow the applicant or the agent, Ruth, to speak if you wish at this time.
Hello.
Yeah, that's on. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ruth Victor. I'm here this evening to say that we are in support of the staff report. We'd like to say thanks, staff. We've been working with them since the fall of last year regarding this application and appreciate all of their efforts that they've had in terms of moving this forward to a successful completion. And we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. We'll see if there are any questions. Any questions at this time? Councillor Columbus, please.
Yes, thank you, and lots of information here. Can you share with us, there's a traffic study that was done by Frank Berry. Is it common for requirement for a traffic study to be done for a project of this nature in a rural area?
It's not.
In your work across Ontario?
In my experience, when there's a question of an intensification of use to the point where there is a potential of traffic impact, we will have a request for that. One of the questions specifically was raised was with regards to the driveway and the sight lines and ensuring that it was appropriate for traffic movement, not necessarily dealing with traffic volume. So the primary focus of this report was to confirm that there was adequate site distance for the driveway for the proposed uses on the property as well as the existing use. So if you note within that report, that was the primary focus of what was responding to, and equally indicating that they felt that the existing parking was adequate in terms of addressing the needs on the property.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, Ruth, if you want to be seated, there may be a question or two back to you if you keep your pencil sharp. We shall see. Is there anyone else in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in general or in opposition to this application? Anything further from this council? I would like a motion to close this public meeting. Height has moved. Geisens has seconded that we do close this public meeting. Those in favor? The public meeting is now closed. You have a staff recommendation on page 133. Councillor Height, please.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, sir. I will need a seconder. Councillor Brunton, please. Height has moved. Brunton has seconded that the application by Whistling Gardens Limited, Darren Heimbecker, 689 Concession 3, Wilsonville. This affects the lands described as part of Lot 9, Concession 3 in the geographic township of Townsend, Norfolk County. This is to amend our Norfolk County's official plan in the Norfolk County zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. The file numbers are in front of you, gentlemen. This is recommended that it be approved for reasons set out in the report. Any discussion on this motion for approval? Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, folks. Let's go to page 169, please. An application has been received to amend the official plan designation and the zoning of the subject lands, requesting relief of 70 square meters from the maximum permitted usable floor area of an assembly building of 37.16 square meters to permit a total usable floor area of 107.1 square meters. A.J. Vanderpost has put forth the application affecting the lands described as 321 Radical Road. I'm not going to call you Karen. I'm going to call you Alicia. Alicia Call, good to see you. I think Kayla's going to speak to me again. Anyhow, I think you're here to give us a report. Thank you.
This is an application to enlarge a permitted assembly building at Radical Lines Aerial Adventure Park. The subject lands are 11.6 acres in size and contain a dwelling, a detached garage, a zip line course, and the assembly building that is the subject of this application as it's already been built. The lands are designated and zoned agricultural with special provisions, and no public input was received for this application. This application is generally consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the overall intent of the Norfolk County official plan. Enlarging a previously approved building by 70 square meters is not expected to have impacts on surrounding property owners or any negative impacts on the property. Staff support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Thank you. Questions from council on this application? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to staff for the report. I'm sorry, I'll just have to have my back to you for a moment. On the bottom of page 171 of our agenda, page 3 of the report, it says the existing assembly building was constructed as a pavilion with open walls and a sea can located within the footprint. That's a term that I'm not familiar with, Mr. Mayor. Is that a typo, or is there such a thing as a sea can? And if so, what is it?
Through the mayor, I should have said shipping container in my report. That's what it is.
Oh, all right. That's not nearly as exciting as sea can. I mean, okay. I'm sorry I asked in that case. But I do have one other question again about the assembly building, and even with its enlarged size, did I read correctly, it would still be an open-walled pavilion type structure?
Through the mayor, that is correct. It's been built that way already.
Thank you. Yes, that's right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, not at the moment. I would like to invite anyone who would like to speak in favor of the application to come forward to the podium, and as always, we would invite the applicant or the agent. I do not see Mr. Vanderpost here. Is Mr. Valley the agent? I think it's Mr. Valley. Yes. Don't see him either. I'm sorry? You are. Do you wish to speak at this time? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Come forward, please. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in general or in opposition to this application? Please come forward. Council, do you have anything further on this application? I would like a motion then to close the public meeting. Councillor Black has moved, Columbus has seconded that we close this public meeting. Those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Page 169, a recommendation from staff. Councillor Black. I have a mover. Councillor Oliver, I have a seconder. Black has moved, Oliver has seconded that the application of Jerry Vanderpost, 321 Radical Road, Port Dover. This affects the lands described as parts Lot 4, Concession 1, Geographic Township of Woodhouse, Norfolk County, to amend the Norfolk County zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. The file numbers are in front of you. This is for approval for reasons as set out in Report DCS 1876, and that no public input has been received for this application, therefore will not be considered as part of our decision. Discussion on this motion. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have one to go before break. I'm on page 181. This is staff report DCS 18-82. Nancy Rogers has put forth the application which affects the lands described not to be within a plan of subdivision 139 and 140 Ordinance Ave. Pam, Matt's not here, but you are. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is an application to Norfolk County Council to pass a deeming bylaw so that the subject lands will not be part of the plan of subdivision in order to merge the two properties into one property. The subject lands are approximately 0.37 acres and 0.1 acres in size, and they front onto the west side of Ordnance Avenue in Turkey Point. A cottage and boathouse and a small shed are located on the one lot, and the other lot is vacant and acts as amenity space. The subject lands are surrounded by resort residential lots to the north, south, and a channel is to the west. The council of a local municipality may by bylaw designate any part of a plan of subdivision that has been registered for 8 years or more to be deemed to no longer be registered as a plan of subdivision. The applicant is proposing to merge the lots to permit the construction of an addition to the existing resort residential dwelling. Based on preliminary review of the drawings, the proposed addition does comply to the zoning bylaw, and the applicant intends to build within the zone provisions. And therefore, planning staff are recommending approval of this report.
Thank you very much for that, Pam. Appreciated. Council members, questions to Ms. Dusling? Councillor Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, we're all happy to see this little bit of housekeeping cleaned up from the looks of it. Pam, I'm really surprised that there would ever have been a lot created that was only 0.1 acre in size. Was it in fact a separate lot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Oliver, yes, it was. It was part of the plan of subdivision, and so are we.
Wow. But I mean, it could never have been built on anyways, I presume, could it?
Not by today's standards.
No, not by, okay, thank you.
Anything further? Is the applicant Nancy Rogers here? Mr. Hagan, how nice to see you. Thank you. So do you wish to speak or on this, or maybe any questions? Thank you for being here, Terry. It's much appreciated. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in general or in opposition to this application? And if so, you can come to the podium, please. Anything further from council? I will need a motion to close this public meeting. Geisens has moved. Brunton has seconded that we do close this public meeting. Those in favor? And the public meeting is closed. The motion is carried. I'm on page 181. There is a recommendation. Councillor Oliver?
Mayor, I'll move the recommendation in the report.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Columbus, you will second? Oliver has moved. Columbus has seconded that the application by Nancy Rogers, RR1 Victoria, this affects the lands of part of Lot 60, as Lot 64, part of 133, and part of Lot 11 in Turkey Point, in front of Concession A, Charlottesville, parts 55, 56, 57, and 58 of Norfolk County, and Lot 65 and part of 133 Norfolk County, to deem the lands not to be within a plan of subdivision. The file number is there. This is recommended for approval for reasons as set out in this report, 18-82. Discussion. I hear none. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Mayor, I note the agenda at the bottom there, DCS 1874 is under the public meeting, public hearings, Lakeshore and Riverine Flood Hazard Study application.
That has been moved into a staff report. It'll be 12C later. Okay, that was, you weren't here, but it was on the change notice and approved by council, okay?
Thank you.
So there you're doing your job. Thank you. I'm ready for a break. Anybody want a break? We'll have a recess.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know. And it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why I love it here, and I'm proud to call it our own. Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Like our kids that go and see the world, take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world, and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road, and to be back for more. Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger alone. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. We know you can't go to Norfolk, the southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 sandy soil. You won't be a stranger along. It's Ontario, South Coast, you know, and surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, South Coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know. On a strip of sandy soil